Today we're going to take a look at vertex form. So, vertex form, and you might remember this from last year, is y equals a x minus h squared plus k, where h and k is your vertex. And you can also think of this as a shift, like a parabola usually starts at 0, 0, and h and k are your left and right shift, remembering that the horizontal shift is always the opposite. So let's take a look at a couple problems here. So let's say you are asked to find the vertex. So the first one we're going to look at, let's say you needed to find the vertex of f of x equals 2x plus 4 squared minus 6. So right away, this is in that h and k form, so we have our h and our k. But remembering that our vertex, it's the opposite because it's like saying that this goes to the left 4 and down 6. So our vertex is -4, -6. And I'm going to look at this front part right here. This number, 2, is positive. So our vertex here, since it opens up, our parabola is happy that this would have to be the minimum of it. So we're going to take a look at a couple of these. Let's say we had f of x equals x minus 1 squared plus 2. Again, if we were to look at this, there's our vertex. And let's see, our a value is just like out in front here, so it's a 1. So our vertex here, the opposite of -1, +1, 2. It opens up. So again, it's a happy parabola. So this has to be a minimum again. And we're going to take a look at a total of 4 of these. So our next one we're going to take a look at is f of x equals -x minus 3 squared. So you'll notice we just have this value. It's not really, there's not a plus anything. And then we have this minus out front. So if we were to ask how this shifts, -3, we just say it moves to the right 3. So our vertex is 3, 0. But that negative means it opens down. So this has to be a maximum. And then the last one we're going to look at. Let's say f of x equals x squared minus 7. So you'll notice there's no parentheses. This is the only thing that it has there. And it's just -7, so it just moves it down 7. So our vertex is 0, -7. The value before our x is positive, so it opens up. So this has to be a minimum. Now, if we were to take a look at how to graph from vertex form. So let's say I ask you to graph y equals x minus 1 squared plus 2. So let's make a graph here. And our vertex, and I'm also going to make an xy table, similar to what we did in standard form. So our vertex, it moved to the right 1 and down 2, so 1, 2. So that's our vertex. So 1, 1, 2. And we know it opens up. Well, that's our vertex, so that's our bottom. So we need a couple more points. And well, I'm going to graph, well, what if x equals 0? And if we were to plug that into the equation, so y equals 0 minus 1 squared plus 2. 0 minus 1 is -1, squared is 1, plus 2 is 3. So we have this coordinate 0, 3. Well, we can make a fairly accurate graph here because we know it's symmetric. And we know it's symmetric among our vertex, that axis of symmetry. So since this is 1 away from the axis of symmetry, we can go 1 on the other side. And we'll just say 3 points are good enough on this one. So we have our parabola right there. So we can use that axis of symmetry to find another point. Let's take a look at another one. Let's take a look at f of x equals -2 x plus 2 squared minus 1. So I'm going to start by making this graph here. And then I'm going to make an xy table. Okay, so let's start with our vertex. If we plus 2 minus 1, so it would be -2, -1 is our vertex. So -2, -1. What do we know? There's a -2 in the front, so it opens down. So let's pick another one. And I always tend, if it's close to the y-axis, I pick 0 because that's pretty easy to plug in. So we have y equals -2 times 0 plus 2 squared minus 1. So let's see, we have -2, 2 squared is 4 minus 1. So we have -9. So 0, -9. So this one, I'm going to have to make this graph a little bit bigger here, I get the feeling. So 0, -9. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Way down here. But let's use that idea of the axis of symmetry again. So 0, -9 is 2 away from the axis of symmetry. So we can count 1, 2, 1, 2. And there's another point. And we have our graph. Could you have put in another point? For sure. You could make a more accurate graph probably and even put in like -1, and you could find another point as well. So the last thing we're going to do today is we're going to learn how to write equations. So I'm going to draw a graph here. And we're going to write an equation here. Sorry, it's a little off. That's as close as we're going to get. So let's write down that vertex form. Ax minus h squared plus k. Well, we have our vertex right down here. So our vertex coordinate, 1, 2, 3, -2. So we could plug that into for our graph. So we have our h and our k. And remembering the x is always the opposite. So y equals a. X, it's +3, so -3 squared. And then -2. Because if we were to look at our equation, as we know, we'd say our vertex is 3, -2. But we have to find that a value. And we can do that by using one of these other coordinates and plugging it in for x and y. So that's the coordinate 2, 0. So let's plug that into for our y and our x. So y is 0 equals a. 2 minus 3 squared minus 2. And then we have to solve. So remembering to use order of operations. So 2 minus 3. So this is -1 squared minus 2. So 0 equals -1 squared is 1a minus 2. Add 2. So 2 equals 1a. So a equals 2. Whoops. So our final equation there is, this is y equals a is 2, x minus 3 squared minus 2. And that would be our final equation. So we'll take a look at one more here. I'll draw another lovely graph. So let's put one at -2 and 3. So we have a nice wide one, and it's facing down. So again, I'm going to write that vertex form first. What's that coordinate of our vertex there? So let's see, that's -2, 3. Okay, so y equals a. X, since it's -2, we'd have +2 squared plus 3. And then we need some other coordinate. And it doesn't matter if we use this one or we could use the other one. So that's -4, 2. So if we plug that in for our y and x, we have 2 equals a. -4 plus 2 squared. I don't know what happened there. That got really messy right there. Sorry, you guys. So this was -4 plus 2 squared. So what we did there is we plugged in our x and y from here. There's our x and there's our y. And now we solve. So 2 equals a. -2 plus 2 is -2 squared plus 3. -2 squared is 4. 4a plus 3, and then we solve. -3 minus 3. -1 equals 4a. So we have a equals -1/4. And now I look at that, that makes sense that a would be negative because it's facing down. So our final equation, -1/4 x plus 2 squared plus 3.